Hey beer lovers, welcome to today's episode. We are still exploring the craft beer scene in Birmingham, Alabama. We're going to be talking with Ralph Marion, the social media director and assistant keg manager of the craft beer shop and craft beer bar called City Birmingham. We're going to be trying beers from Avondale Brewing Company. We're going to be tasting their Spring Street Saison and finishing with their Sour Pash Fruited Sour. This is a place that really knows sour beers because they actually have an entire room at their brewery dedicated to only sour beers. I cannot wait to share this episode with you because there's some more cool things about Avondale, and Ralph was an amazing guest. Stay tuned. Welcome to the Brews Less Traveled podcast and beer club. I'm your craft beer loving host, Molly Lamb. I am joined with my awesome co-host this month, Tim. Tim, how you doing? You want to say a quick hello?
Absolutely. Glad to be back, Molly. I am doing great. I'm excited to try these beers and excited to see everybody out here tonight again. So welcome.
We have a great guest tonight, the social media director and assistant keg manager of the really, really cool craft beer shop and craft beer bar, City Birmingham. He's going to be joining us in just a little bit, Ralph Marion. I'm so excited to introduce him in just a little while.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be tasting some really, really great beers. So hopefully you're joining along from Avondale Brewing Company down there. So we're going to try their Spring Street Saison, which, Molly, you know, I am a huge Belgian beer fan. So I'm going to be loving that. And then their Sour Pash, their fruited sour. So sour's definitely been more popular lately. So I'm really looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, me too. And you know what, Tim, I want to go ahead and get right into it. So what do you say we go ahead and open that Saison first?
You're speaking my language.
Let's do it. This is a nice farmhouse ale. Let's do it. Beautiful golden straw-like color right away.
Yeah, I was going to say that's just a staple of the farmhouse. You're always going to get that great golden color. Oh man, just looks beautiful.
And I know, Tim, you're a big Belgian beer lover, so I definitely want to hear your thoughts on this. Cheers, guys.
Absolutely. Cheers, everybody.
You really get that Belgian yeast, that kind of banana, clovey, rich. It's a richer yeast to me. It almost gives it a little bit more of a viscous quality. Yeah, and you get that like cloudy puffiness there, and you get that nice malt backbone to it. I mean, you just can't go wrong. The farmhouse style, I feel like, is one that a lot of people kind of look over. But this one, I think, should be up there, just like your pale ales, your IPAs. I think it should be everywhere because it's just such an approachable beer. It's so drinkable, and it has so many great qualities that I think people could really latch on to. This is a great beer, yeah. And Tim, I completely get what you're saying. It's, people I think sometimes are intimidated by Belgian beers because they don't know much about it. I feel like sometimes it's more of a select beer that craft beer bars will kind of say, hey, we do Belgian beers. And it's either like a big focus on it or really not at all. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think that's just the Belgian culture. For a long time, these beers were kind of held behind, a lot of these monks that created them. So a lot of the recipes and the styles just haven't got out as well known. But as Rob mentioned, they're very refreshing. These beers are very approachable and I think are some of the greatest styles. And like I said, these farmhouse saisons are a wonderful, wonderful addition. So really enjoying this one from Avondale.
I agree. And a little bit more about this beer. So this farmhouse ale clocks in at 7.2% ABV, just 18 IBUs, and it's got a cool story behind the name. So when the city of Avondale was formed in the 1850s, the main area became known as Spring Street. And on this street, which is now 41st Street in Birmingham, is where you'll find the present day home of Avondale Brewing Company. Avondale is now considered just a neighborhood within Birmingham. And it was really fun. I got to explore this neighborhood with my brother, Alan, because he lives there. And he was the one who kind of explained that to me. He was like, yeah, Avondale's just, it's just a neighborhood within Birmingham. It's a very cool little district there. And the Spring Street Saison, it's a Belgian-style farmhouse ale, as we've said. The Saison is Avondale's flagship brew that really helped spawn the formation of Avondale Brewing Company. And this Saison is actually brewed with their house yeast, a 4-malt blend, and traditional Slovenian hops.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that you have your flagship beer tied to the history of your city, something that really resonates with the hometown. Like you said, your brother obviously knows that history and follows that, which is just so cool. And also anybody that comes out with a flagship beer at 7% already has won over my heart. But, as Molly said, this is just a really great beer. You have that coppery golden color, like I said, pretty traditional with your Saison styles. And we talked about that malt backbone, really, really unique for this beer style, but you're also going to get some tropical in there. There's some spicy, some peppery notes, and they have their own house yeast that really contributes to that. So, really, really hope you get a chance to enjoy this one because I know I'm loving it right now. It's just really a wonder.
Absolutely, Tim. That's such a good description. And I love that you said that tropical note, because I do taste that. I feel like someone who was maybe like a hazy IPA lover would actually find a lot of comfort and joy in this beer, because I'm a big hazy lover, and I actually find some familiar notes in there a little bit.
Absolutely.
You get a little bit of that tropical fruit.
Yeah, and I know you've talked about in the past how names like brown ale maybe don't really win themselves over with a lot of beer lovers out there. And I think Farmhouse might fall into the same category. People think that maybe it doesn't have the same pizzazz, it's not as fancy. But like I said, this beer is definitely anything less than something that's just found in a barn. It's a wonderful, well-made beer. So don't be afraid and shied away from the name there.
Absolutely. Yeah, no. And I think that you're right. I think people don't quite understand, Farmhouse, but there's just kind of like a nice history behind that. And I think that that's something that people don't really know about. They don't really understand the history of beer. I have to be honest, sometimes with Belgian beers, I can't drink a ton of them because the yeast is really rich. It'll kind of give me a stomach ache. I usually have to stick to just like one, even though I really love them.
Yeah, I actually brewed a Saison. I was interested to see that we were doing one today. I brewed one this weekend that's very similar here. It's not a farmhouse style, just a little bit more traditional. But I'm hoping it comes out as nice and clear as this one. So I've been trying to get back on my beer game and kind of get everything around the home life kind of squared away here.
And Tim, so you mentioned a traditional Saison and then also a farmhouse. Could you maybe talk a little bit about the difference between those two?
Yeah, the more traditional styles that you have in the Belgian family are, your Dubels, your triples, your quads. And these are ones that people might have had more familiarity with. Things like Duvel or Le Fin du Monde, all of those great, more malty styles. And you tend to have more of a malt bill there. You also tend to have a little bit more sweetness in that characteristic, where the farmhouse is a little bit more rustic, and not to kind of play on the farmhouse name, but you typically have a little bit more complexity in the mouthfeel for these beer styles. And you also tend to have a little bit less of that sweetness or that bold, kind of malty taste to the character. So a little bit different. And like I said, I think something that would appeal if you're not somebody that likes a whole lot of that malt sweetness. This kind of appeals to more of those, like you mentioned, the hazies or some of those other beer lovers that I think it might delve you into Belgian beers a little bit more.
That's so cool. I really love that explanation of it. And I think that sometimes people don't quite understand the difference. So thank you for that. I want to share a couple fun things to do in Birmingham. So definitely visit the Birmingham Botanical Gardens. My family loves it there. It's great for families or to just wander around alone. They have classes like yoga or how to grow garlic or how to pick the right seeds for springtime. So it's a really fun place to go and visit. And it's apparently a really beautiful one in Birmingham. I've heard that from a few other people.
Yeah. And I know we've talked a lot about history when we've been talking about Birmingham, but specifically checking out the iron statue of Vulcan. It's right around the Red Mountain, which is right outside of Birmingham. But this is a 50-ton, 56-foot tall iron statue of Vulcan, who's the Roman god of fire. So ridiculously enormous statue or sculpture, I should say. And it's been in Birmingham since the 1930s. And it was actually created for Birmingham's entry into the Louisiana Purchase Exposition all the way back in the 1904 World's Fair in St. Louis, Missouri. So pretty remarkable. And like I said, Birmingham just keeps throwing out the history facts. And so if you're a history buff and a beer lover, this is definitely the city for you.
And also, I want to tell you guys a little bit more about Avondale Brewing Company. So Avondale opened 10 years ago, and it's actually owned by good people who we've already featured. So it's the same owners. And they're really more than just a brewery. They are also one of the most popular music venues in Birmingham. They have a beautiful outdoor stage, and they have really good bands play. They had a band called Camp. I don't know if anyone knows them, CAAMP, that was playing the night before I got there. I was bummed I missed it. But they have great music acts there. And they also have an outdoor bar. So when you go to a show and you're hearing music outside, there's a bar just steps away. They also, and this is super cool, they have a sour room. So they have a room dedicated entirely to sour beers. You can also rent this room out for private events. Honestly, you could spend a whole day at Avondale. It's huge. Plus, they have great food. They also have a golf simulator where you can catch a tee time too.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm sure my wife will listen to this, and as soon as she hears sour room, I think I know where our next trip is going to be scheduled. She's a huge sour lover, so that's amazing that they have one just dedicated to those sour beers.
So you walk into Avondale and, there's just the normal little tap room bar. And then you go outside and there's this giant outdoor bar on the stage. And then the sour room is right there. So they didn't have a huge selection. It was maybe 5 or 6 kettle sours, I would say. But yeah, super cool. But they do that. And they have a couple other rooms that you can rent for events. So yeah, just a really fun spot. You could just kind of hang out there all day.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes sour lovers need a safe space. It's not it's something that gets a lot of heat. When you say it out there. So I'm really happy to hear that they've kind of created that space. That's awesome. So
let's open the Sour Pash.
Ooh, talking about all these sours, we might as well. Nice, another nice can. I like the simpleness. We talked about that last week as well, but.
And I love the color of this can. It's just a nice sort of, I don't know, looks like watermelon.
Right. You can smell it already. That's wonderful.
It's one thing I love about sours. You can always smell them right away. Yeah. And this one clocks in at 4.2% ABV, only 5 IBUs.
A nice session sour.
Yeah. And this is one that they have in their sour room. I went right in for a sip. Cheers, guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is very sessionable, Tim.
Ooh, yeah. But still has a lot of great flavor. I feel like when people hear session and when we talk about session, we're talking about that 3 to 5%. People always think it might lack flavor or it's not as good as some of the more pronounced beers you have out there. But this one, really, you get that great sour bite there on the front, a little bit of carbonation on the back of your tongue. So really great beer here to start.
Yeah. And this one's really hazy.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm loving it. And yeah, very tart, fruit-filled sour that's super quenching and satisfying.
And I love the smell of sours that like they almost go right up in your nose. You know, you can kind of feel the tingles a little bit. And this one definitely gives you a little bit of that tartness.
Let's take a beer break. We've been enjoying this beautiful fruited sour ale called the Sour Pash, and it got me thinking, what goes into brewing with fruit? So it can actually be pretty tricky because you don't really know how much flavor is going to come through. Apparently, raspberry, cherry, and apricot are the most common fruits used, and it's because they're really easy to work with, and they also have a high concentration of flavor and a low concentration of water. When a fruit has more water, you're obviously going to have to use more of it to get that flavor really concentrated in there. So fruits with a high water concentration like peach, pear, or strawberry, they're going to require more fruit per gallon. And fruit can be added to the beer in different forms. You can choose something like a canned fruit puree, which is going to be really consistent and safe since it comes pre-sanitized. That's going to save brewers some work and also the headache about worrying about bacteria. There's some fruits with a pit, like a peach. They're going to have to actually cut through that to make it usable in the beer. So that can be a lot of work. I personally love fruited beer, and learning all that goes into it has made me even more grateful for these delicious beer styles. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, this one's really refreshing. I feel like this would be a great beer to end your day at the Botanical Gardens on a hot day, or if you're hiking or something. Really nice. I like this one. I love a nice sort of soft, round kettle sour, a little softer on the palate.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice, well balanced too. You know, it's different. It's different. And I think that the session also allows you, to not go too crazy with it. So, when I started off in sours, I was doing like bourbon barrel aged sours, on the West Coast. But, glad to hear that these have come around to a session style as well.
And just a small disclaimer on this episode, you can definitely tell how popular Hop City is because there is a bit of background noise and chatter happening, but bear with us because Ralph is still an amazing guest.
Let's welcome on our guest this evening, Ralph Marion, the social media director and assistant keg manager of Hop City Birmingham. Ralph, how are you? Good to see you.
Likewise. Thank you for having me on.
Ralph, we always love to start out by asking everyone their craft beer origin story. So, Ralph, how did you first get into craft beer?
So the way that I always tell people about how I got into craft beer is I'd start out from very, very beginning. So for me, the first time I ever had an actual taste of beer was when I was like a wee little child. And this is by accident. So hanging out with my, great-grandparents and everything like that in Selma, Alabama, and just, hanging out with family and everything like that. There was one time I saw a red can thinking that it was a can of Coca-Cola. So I took a sip of that, found out that it was actually Budweiser, and then just completely spit it out, never thinking I was going to get into beer again. Fast forward, me being into college, roughly about like 22, 23, there's a place that used to be around here called the J. Clyde. And that was pretty much like one of the biggest beer bars in the whole area. Pretty much like one of the places that kind of helped start craft beer in the city and somewhat in the state. And the first time I ever had a beer, it was the Good People Brown. And that was literally my first step into it. And then flash forward into where I'm at now, worked at many different beer bars and breweries and just got my name out in different areas and just, here I am today. So it kind of just started from back when I was like about 5 or 6. And now here I am, being one of the people to work at an amazing place like Hop City.
Yeah, you've definitely stepped into the craft beer scene in a really big way. So what is your day-to-day like at Hop City Birmingham?
So day-to-day is pretty much literally, for me, like you mentioned earlier, I'm one of the assistant keg managers here and whatnot. So literally my thing is as soon as I get in, I am checking to make sure to see what beers are here, but then also what beers might have kicked and are just need to be put on. And we have 66 beers, or at least 66 taps available. And so that means that we can put on anything from like IPAs to sours to lagers to stouts to porters to Belgians, like a whole bunch of different stuff. We got 2 options that are non-alcoholic, and then we also have 3 options that are gluten-free. They will not touch anything that has any form of gluten. Like literally, they're anything from ciders to meads to seltzers. That's all those are all those lines will be and whatnot. So that's literally what we do. And my thing is, I just come in and just try to learn more as I go along, because literally the way that this store is, there's 1,500 different beers and wines here. So we got 1,500 different beers here, 1,500 different wines here from all over, not just here in Birmingham, not just here in Alabama, but like all across the country, all across the world. And we get so many different things where it's just it kind of gets a little bit overwhelming at times. But the good thing about it is you get to try so many different new things that you can never really just get used to one style, and your palate's always changing in a way and whatnot. So it's always just like a really cool and interesting time whenever you're working around.
And so you guys have beers on draft. Do you guys serve wine there too? I don't know if I noticed. I know you sell wine, but do you serve it?
So literally, this was something that we were planning to do, make a big thing last year. But obviously, the world went crazy and a lot of things happened. So we wasn't able to do it like how we planned it. But we do have a wine bar, and it's going to be stuff that you won't see at usual wine places. This is going to be what we say, quote unquote, fancier and a little bit more different than what you would get at your typical, restaurant or bar or anything like that. They're going to be a little bit more unique and whatnot. But we got some but some wines that are going to be on draft, and then some that we actually put through a corkman, which is pretty much a little contraption to where the needle will go through the cork, and then it, of course, pours through a particular gas called argon that helps it keep it stay fresher longer without actually taking out the cork from the bottle itself.
I've heard of that. And do you guys at Hop City, do you focus more on the retail aspect or the beer bar? Because both are really huge. You guys had I bought a bunch of beer to take home and a bunch of wine, but then you also have this massive tap list. So is there a focus, or do you just kind of try to split it?
So it's really just more to split. I mean, we are majority more of a beer and wine store that just so happens to have, drinks that you can be able to drink here and whatnot. But our bar is probably like one of our biggest parts of the whole area as it is. So it's not just, we focus more on just the retail part, or we just focus more on the bar part and whatnot. It's a nice little split to where it's kind of like, a lot of people come around and see a lot of the stuff that we have on our draft wall, and then they might try to get that and take it home with them. And the good thing about it is not only do we have our where you can get cans or bottles or whatnot, we also do growlers here as well. So if you got anything that you see on draft and you want to take that home, and we just so happen to not have it on our shelves, you can get a growler to take home with you. And we got like 32, 64 ounce growlers and whatnot.
Absolutely. No, that's really cool. And I'm curious, so you guys have a lot of taps. How many do you have again? What did you say?
66. So we have 66 different taps available. A majority of them are going to be, your standard taps. And like I said, we do have some that are going to be non-alcoholic, some that will be only for gluten-free. And then for right now, we do have 2 different taps that are going to be for nitros and whatnot. So we do have some nitro beers on from time to time as well.
As you probably know by now, our podcast is done in the form of a live stream. All of our beer club members get to tune in live with me and ask any questions that they want to me, my co-host, or the guest. We just had a great question from one of our live audience members. Let's hear what it was. Do you fill growlers, cans, or just glass growlers?
So it's just so we don't do crowlers. We don't have the actual contraption to actually seal the crowlers or anything like that. So we only do the glass growlers, but we also have a plastic growler that's available for 32 ounce size as well.
And so how do you keep all these 66 draft lines in?
So the main thing about it is, especially with me being around here, and I got to give a huge shout out to Annie Good, who's our assistant GM, but then also she's one of the other assistant bar managers here. Like literally the way that she's been doing the program here has been freaking awesome. And for her, what she's been doing, like pretty much when we change a beer, we always clean the line. So literally we rinse out the line first, put a little bit of the beer line cleaner in, give it like about a few minutes to make sure that it settles, to actually, clean the line and everything like that. And then from there, we rinse it out, make sure that all the cleaner is out, make sure that there's nothing left of the cleaner. It's just only water left, and put on the next beer. And we have a system here to where we try to make sure that we're not putting on the same beers all the time. We always, every quarter, so pretty much like every 4 months, we will do like a deep clean and clean out every single line all at once and whatnot, to where we make sure that our main thing is we want to make sure that there's nothing from the previous beer into the beer that you're tasting now.
And I really loved my visit to Hop City. I bought a bunch of beer. I stocked my brother's fridge because, like I said, he lives there. And I bought some wine for me to take home because we were doing dinner at my mom's house later that night. And I love my mom, but she doesn't always buy the best wine. That's okay. Yeah. No judgment, but I'm going to go to Hop City, Birmingham, and I'm going to get the wine I like. And, funny story, there was a little mix up with my tab when I was sitting at the bar because the couple next to me, they had the same last name as me. Their last name was also Lamb. How weird is that? My last name is Lamb.
Walk into a bar. I mean, that's the start of a joke, right?
Right.
It was so weird. Like, I know there's other Lambs out there, but it was so funny. The bartender, she was so great. She hands me the tab and I was like, oh, because I just had like a little small pour and I was like, why is it like $36? And she was like, your last name's Lamb. I was like, yeah. And then the woman next to me said, oh, wait, we're Lamb. And I was like, oh my God, high five. That was really funny. That was definitely a memorable experience for sure.
Well, Ralph, how many locations do you guys have? And is there any expansion plans? I know you've talked a lot about everything you're doing, but I want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so right now, with Hop City, we are based out of Atlanta. So pretty much we are the only place outside of the whole state of Georgia for Hop City. Yeah, so there's 3 other locations outside of just from us. So altogether, there's 4. So you have us, you have one that's in West End that's over there near Monday Night Garage. You have another one that's over in the Krog Street food market. And you also have another one that's over in Fayetteville. Now, within that, those are just the Hop Cities. We also got a restaurant called Barley Garden that's also over in Fayetteville. But then you also got Boxcar, which is also right above the West End locations and whatnot. So we also have, like I said, we have the stores and whatnot. We have the bars, but then we also have the restaurants as a part of the Hop City family as well. Now, to go on with what you were saying, are we going to be extending from there?
Yeah, we're expanding. It sounds like you're in everything, but any other expansions?
So there's plans in the future. Nothing as of yet. There's going to be possibilities of stuff, for maybe, more in Georgia, possibly some stuff that we might be doing here in the future, but nothing in the immediate future. So
I know you're a social media type person, and I know that's extremely popular now. If anybody's on Tap or any of the well-known different apps out there, they probably know that taking a good picture of beer is difficult. So do you have any tips for how people can take that best picture to go on whatever social media they're throwing it on?
Well, funny that you mentioned that. So the picture that y'all have right behind y'all is the one that I actually took. So that's the one. So that's literally the picture I took. So literally it's literally one of those where, so I have my own platform that I do onto the side called Beer Black Man. And it's pretty much just a whole thing where we talk about diversity, representation, inclusion, and craft beer. And literally a lot of my stuff that I do is try to take pictures on Instagram and whatnot. So a lot of the ways that I kind of do it is just kind of more you just try to make sure that you have to picture the beer, or you have the beer in place like how you want it. Like if you want to have it like real fun or real kind of serious, or just, like how it is right behind y'all. And then just go from there. Just try to get the feel that you want and whatnot. For me, it's always just trying to just figure out, okay, what am I trying to get for that particular picture? What kind of message am I trying to portray and whatnot? And a lot of times for what we're doing here at Hop City is just more to try and make sure that the beer is there. And whether it's like a new beer that's coming in, a returning beer, or something really special, like if we have anything from the bar and whatnot, and we want to talk about that and have that be a thing. Just the main thing about it is you want to make sure that the beer looks sexy in a sense, but then also you want to make sure that the area behind the beer is also pleasing as well, because you just don't want to have like a whole bunch of clutter, but you don't want this to make it look just dull. If that makes any sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people that spends a few minutes every time I'm checking in a beer. Probably a little bit too much time if you ask people that I'm with. But along those same lines, what are some of the favorite campaigns in the social media realm that you've done that you've really loved?
So the thing about like what we do around here, especially because I've only been doing the social media part here for since September, October of last year. So I'm still fairly new to doing it for a business, especially like Hop City and whatnot. Usually I do my own social media. So for me to do the social media here, it's a little bit different. With that being said, the way I kind of do it is I try to put a lot of more emphasis on a lot of the kind of like fun stuff. So we do like a lot of fun promotions, like something that we started last year was called I'm Dreaming of a Dark Christmas. And pretty much it's a celebration. It's our 12 days of Christmas. And every single day we release some form of a dark beer, whether it is a stout, a porter, Belgian quad, strong dark, it could be a brown, it could be a lot of different things. And we just try to have fun and just trying to do those kind of things. So, and something that we did last year, since we weren't usually at the first Sunday of October, we have our anniversary party. And that's a big old thing to where we celebrate how many years we've been around. Like I said, we've been around for 9 years. And usually we have like a big party to invite people to come around. We take off all the quote unquote regular beers on our draft and put off one-offs, like just specialty beers. A lot of times we do collaborations with some of the breweries around here. But for what we did last year, we wasn't able to do that. So we did to where it is a whole month long. So we did from October 1st to October 31st, and we did release 2 beers every single time. And we did a whole thing to where we took pictures all across the area that we're in here in Pepper Place. And we just kind of just took pictures and just made it to where we just showcased not just us, but then all of our neighbors around here. And we just give all the love that we can.
That's so cool. I love that. And we have a question in the chat, Ralph. So Jennifer's wondering if you can say a little bit more about the Instagram. You said the Black Beer Man. Her husband's a black craft beer lover, and he's wondering about that.
Yeah. So again, it's called Beer Black Man, and pretty much it's spelled BEERED Black Man. And pretty much what that is, like I said, it's where I talk about more about representation, diversity, and inclusion in craft beer, because for somebody like me who doesn't really see a lot of people that come around into into Hop City or into some of the breweries and whatnot, it kind of gets to where it's kind of like, are there any others like me? And that's how I kind of started, and just literally just kind of showcasing all the beers I do or all the beers I taste. Talk about different kind of stuff that's going on in the city, and kind of big news that's going on, anything that needs to be talked about, because there's a lot of people that don't get that kind of representation, or it feels like they get shown enough and whatnot. And I want to be able to help kind of bring out that word. So I want everybody to feel like they're going to be welcome and whatnot. And that's how I always felt like, no matter where I worked at or any kind of position that I am in craft beer, I want to make sure that somebody that comes in, they feel like they can be at this bar because they deserve to be at the bar.
Absolutely, Ralph. And I love so much that you're bringing this up. There's been so many times I have wanted to make this podcast more diverse, but I am constantly talking to cis-hetero white male brewers. So it is hard to do that. So thank you very much for that. You know, a lot of people are not represented. You know, when you look at kind of the old school beer ads, it's like skinny white women playing volleyball or fit white men playing volleyball or like on a yacht or I don't know. So many people are marginalized and left out of the beer community. So I think it is great. I think Instagram is really fun because it can actually really give you this platform to say, hey, I'm this person and I love beer. And I bet there's other people like me out there too. And let's make this inclusive because beer should be. And also, I am curious just to get a little social flair from you. What is your ideal day off in Birmingham?
Sleeping. Like literally. So literally when you, Molly, was messaging me a lot last week, I was actually on my week off. And that was the first time I had a week off in like 2 years. So when I had my week off, the first couple of days, I literally stayed at home, did nothing. I literally just was watching Netflix shows. I watched some, anime, read some comics. I'm a big wrestling fan, so I watched a bit some wrestling and whatnot, and just kind of relax and chill, just enjoy myself. And the people that work here in the service industry are phenomenal, and it only gets better with the people. It only makes it better that, the people that work around here are freaking awesome. So, but to go back to your answer or your question, pretty much just try to find some way just to get some sleep. That's the main thing.
Yeah, I completely hear you. And that is the first time I have heard that answer. So, and also, as we wrap up here, it is time for our rapid fire question. So, Ralph, this is a little bit of a surprise. The idea is to not think, just answer. Are you ready?
Let's go for it.
All right. Malty beers or hop forward styles?
Malty all day.
Ooh. All right. How about cask ales? Yay or nay?
I would go for a cask ale here and there. Yes. Pretty much yes.
Beer you're most looking forward to drinking this winter?
Oh, like any form of a bourbon barrel aged, beer and whatnot. Like literally, that's what I'm drinking right now.
That's awesome. Yeah, love the bourbon barrel. So I'm right with you on that. How about your favorite beer and food pairing?
Ooh, like pretty much any form of dark beer. So I don't know, even say like a really good like brown ale.
I always say a brown ale or an amber ale is my favorite with food. Those kind of like malty beers. I love a brown ale. It's one of my favorite. Oh my God. What is your favorite Thanksgiving beer?
So there's a beer that came out not too long, or like about 2 years ago from North Coast, and it was a cranberry Berliner Weiss. And literally it was so crisp, but it had like the right amount of spice from the cranberries. And as soon as I had it, I was like, this is a Thanksgiving beer, bar none. And it worked so perfectly with so my mom cooks like fried turkey, and then she does mac and cheese, dressing, collard greens, and whatnot. And just it fits so well with that.
So I'm actually thinking on Thanksgiving, I want to bring some smoked beers. I love smoked beer with food. I feel like that would go so well with turkey and stuffing.
And that's the thing about especially when it comes to smoked beers, it's definitely one of those niche beers to where it's definitely going to be something where either you're going to like it or you don't.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, I'm excited for our episode the week after Thanksgiving because I really can't wait to hear everyone's Thanksgiving beers. But Ralph, it has been a pleasure having you. Is there anything you'd like to plug?
Yes. So if you're here in Birmingham or coming around the Birmingham area, on December 6th, Monday, December 6th, we will be doing a holiday wine show. And that's going to be something that's going to be going on. It's going to be about 35 plus wines. that will be available. Tickets are $20. You can go ahead and call us here at the store at area code 205-279-2337, or easy way to remember, 205-279-BEER. That's pretty much our phone number. And that's pretty much easy way to do that. And then tickets are $20. And then if you decide to get a bottle of wine from the show, then $10 from that will go into the purchase of that bottle. And then also, like I said, I got my own stuff going on. I got a collaboration beer that's on draft right now as we speak that I did with Straight to Ale Huntsville. It's a English barley wine, aged or wood chips. That's my 4th collaboration I did. So if you want to come around here, it's called What's Good, Old Chip? And then like literally just come around, hang out, have a good time with us. It's going to be good. I promise you on that.
Hop City Birmingham is such a progressive, cool craft beer bar and store with also wine. It's kind of got something for everyone. We could not miss the opportunity to feature you guys. So I'm so honored that you were able to come on. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. Thank you to my wonderful co-host, Tim. Be sure to tune in next week as we chat with Luke Gardner, head brewer at Trim Tab, and taste their Continuum wheat-based double IPA and their Imperial Euphoria, now Berliner Weiss. Cheers.
Thank you all so much for tuning in. It's always a blast having a beer with you. Don't forget to sign up for the Brews Less Traveled Beer Club, and this way you'll get the beers I've been drinking delivered right to your doorstep, plus exclusive access to our weekly live streams. You can also follow Bruvana on Instagram and me as well at Molly_Brews Less Traveled. I always love hearing from you guys, especially if it's a beer recommendation. So keep the messages coming. Cheers.